Hope everyone's having a beautiful day and an amazing day. What I'm going to talk about today is the rules, right? Life is a game. As soon as you find out the rules, you can play as you wish, in my opinion. But the catch-22 on this is that the rules are whatever you say they are. So, it's going to be like, oh God, this guy's nuts. Yeah, probably. It's all good though. But yeah, no, the rules are set by you. Okay, the rules are set by you at all times. What are the implications of this? Knowing that you set the rules, knowingly or unknowingly, the rules are set by you. Okay, so if you want to experience a certain experience, you will bring it into your life. Okay, because you're being the identity of the one that experiences that experience, if that makes sense. So it's never like if you ever try to do actions to change your surroundings, that's not how that works. What you got to do is you got to change the identity of the person doing it, the person, you change your internal, and the external will reflect, right? Because the same action can be taken by different identities, and you will have different effects, right? You will end up having a different result from each one, because a different identity is the one that took the action. So yes, you set the rules. If you want to experience this life with the rules of a certain religion, you will experience that experience, right? If you want to be Muslim, you could experience a good life as that, or a bad life as that. But again, the life is just a reflection of your internal. So you are constantly projecting the identity of who you're being out. And then the 3D is reflecting it back at you. And if you understand the oneness of everything, right? We're all divine, so we're all one, right? Other people are a reflection of you. This makes sense. Even if you don't, if you feel like your ego is not going to let you go to that extent, because we fall, or we stay at the consciousness that we feel comfortable in. All right, so that's the level that we tend to stay at. So someone that believes that what's it called, that they believe that the elections rule their life, or certain government actions, they best know that in their reality, in their world, that's what their world is going to show them, that everything is ran by that. Okay, say you go a little higher than that, and then you go into a little conspiracy stuff, and you start seeing that, oh, it's two birds of a feather. But then you start seeing other stuff, and you're like, oh my God, the elites, right? Now, if you settle on that consciousness, guess what? Now that is what you will be focusing on, and that is what you will keep seeing, because you are the algorithm of life. Your identity, the person that you are, is what life is going to show you. Okay? Now, I say you get spiritual, right? You get a little spiritual. Maybe you dive into tarot cards, or maybe you dive into life path numbers, or maybe you dive into astrology or astronomy, whichever one, right? Or by diving into this, that is what you will see in life now, right? That is what you will see. So tarot is going to show you. Tarot is a reflection of you. Tarot is going to show you what the identity currently perceives things as. So whatever your current identity is, tarot is going to show you that, because that is the perception that you're using to take in the world, right? So your identity is going to show you whatever you perceive to be the truth, always. That is what this does. Again, if you lock into the star signs and stuff, it will prove to you, if you fully believe it, it will show you that it's true. Right? Anything that you fully believe, life will show you that the truth. Until you don't believe it anymore, or until you doubt self. Because that's the thing. As soon as you doubt yourself, that is when we waver, and that is when it becomes a shit show, right? Or that's when sometimes we perceive it to become a shit show because everything's always working for us, right? So everything we do is working for us. So if everything we do is working for us, the perceived shit show is actually the way to get your desired outcome. But we see the perceived shit show and we're like, oh my God. And then you fall back into the other identity that can't enjoy what you're trying to enjoy because the other identity falls back into lack, right? Because the 3D, which comes from us, is showing you something, but it comes from you. So the 3D always adjusts to you. It's always going to adjust to you. It's the nature of the projection, right? It's the nature of this reality. It's constantly adjusting to us, always. What we perceive, the identity we're being, all of that, it's adjusting to us. So why would you anchor your belief system, right, into something that is constantly adjusting, that adjusts based on perception, right? If you're trying to anchor to something that's adjusting to you, that doesn't make sense, because you will constantly repeat the same patterns, because if you don't change the identity of the person doing it, the patterns are going to repeat, and the patterns will always repeat, because you're not meant to change behavior. You're meant to see yourself as the identity, and you're meant to exist as the one that doesn't do the actions that you're trying to change, right? So if you perceive yourself as an addict, you now have to see yourself as a non-addict, as a normal sober, right? So how would you act in those situations? You will have to constantly see yourself as that. If someone's calls you an addict, you have to keep telling yourself you're not an addict, right? Eventually, by doing this and you setting your truth, you will start taking a line to action. All right. Maybe at the beginning it's kind of tough, because again, this is stuff that they don't teach. They don't really teach anyone anything, right? If anything, they teach us to look external to find peace, right? Which is not what you do. You look internal, you find peace, you find love from yourself, because you are fulfillment, right? So anything you want in life, you give to yourself first, and once you give to yourself first, the 3D will reflect that back at you. Okay? All this timeline stuff, get it in 5 days, you do the meditation, do this in 24 hours. Look, most of that stuff will probably not work unless you fully believe it, because it will keep you in the lack, right? Because only the present exists. So why would you be looking for something to get something in 24 hours if you already have it? The whole thing is that you have everything, right? So you have everything. It just, it will materialize with time. But the ego, or the old identities, like to put timelines on us, and like for us to doubt self. And it likes to put timelines because the ego's job is to keep us in the same identity that we're functioning as. Eventually, once you get to the point that the divine perspective, I guess we'll call it, you're in it enough, then that is what will shift as your ego, and the ego will start, if anything that could be perceived as negative or bad happens, right? Your ego will be like, look, this is happening for us. Why are you worried? There's no reason for you to worry, because it's happening for you. Okay? So again, it'll take time to shift. But yeah, the rules of this game are whatever rules you set. Okay? So this is an experience. You decide how you want to experience. You decide what you experience. And when you decide that, you're not forcing anyone else to do anything. We're not manifesting things. We're manifesting the identity of us, right? The version of us that is experiencing that. There's infinite worlds, there's infinite universes, there's infinite realities, okay? And all you're doing is stepping into the identity and shifting into the identity that is experiencing what you want to experience. But then the interesting thing is that you keep the desire, but you cannot have the desire be too important, if that makes sense. Because if you have too high of importance on it, now what ends up happening is you're creating separation, right? Because if something is too important, now you're telling yourself, you're implying that you lack it because it's too important. Because if you have it, it's doesn't. We kind of get used to the stuff we have, right? Even the stuff like the people we love. It gets to a point where it's like, yeah, you love them and you choose to act a certain way towards them, but knowing that you have them, it becomes normal, right? And if something becomes normal, that is when the divine works best, which is why we're so good at manifesting negative. If we're so good at anticipating it, because we are creating it ourselves, because we've lived in a world where we've accepted this collective belief or negative collective belief, and we have kept that pattern over and over and over and over again, and it comes from us. Everything comes from you, right? You'll interface with other people, but it's all you, right? You're a part of source. Everyone is source. Everyone is experiencing their own existence, right? So if you're part of source, then no one is separate from you, which is why there's like thought transmission, and that's why like your thoughts aren't really private, because it travels, because especially if they're in that state of being also. If everyone is source and you're source, then we're all already one. So there's no separation, right? So then there should be no, like, you shouldn't be acting as if there is separation, right? Because there isn't. So yeah, the main thing is that you create the rules to this life, all right? You select what you want to do. If you want to do life path numbers, you do life path numbers. If you want to do, if you want to experience this life as a Christian or as a Muslim, or as under Judaism or whatever, Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, Jainism, whatever you want, right? Hinduism, anything, you can choose to live by those rules, and then your reality will show you whatever the identity of the person that lives through that will experience. But it's all coming from us, as everything always does. So if you care to shift your consciousness, knowing that to be true, and you know that all the limits that you set, Jesus, all the limits that you set are limits that you set yourself, right? All the stuff that you're experiencing is stuff that you chose to experience, because you set your you said how you perceive things, you said how you see things, right? So two people could experience the same thing, right? And you could have completely different views on it, and in each person's reality, they're correct. Okay, they're always correct, right? So like, say you're talking to somebody, and there's someone's like, maybe you've had money all your life, so money doesn't matter, but then the person you're dating is giving you gifts, they're trying to show love, but because you don't care about money, right, it doesn't even track, right? So all this stuff, all these actions are invisible to you, because you don't see them, because you don't care for them, right? Which I guess is the whole love language thing, but that's stupid, because if you are love, you could see love in anything, but that's a different conversation. And then a second person is spiritual, right? Second person knows that money is energy in motion, right? So they know that money is significant because it's energy, and it's flowing, and it's coming back and it's circulating, right? Not in the sense that like, they're a gold digger, but in the sense that you acknowledge the effort behind it and the meaning behind it, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, they're throwing money. It's like, no, they care about me, and they bought stuff for me, and that's to show love, right? Now, again, same action. If the person's dating the same person, but you choose one to ignore one thing, and then the other person, the other way to perceive it, you choose to be grateful, right? And to see it as love. It's the same action. It is the same thing. But the identity of the person that experiences it is what changes it, right? So that's what, like, you set the rules. You're always right in your reality, right? You're right until you accept defeat and you give into self-doubt, and then you're wrong. But again, that's probably another video. But yeah, no. These rules, the rules that you live by, are set by you. They will always be set by you. So just be careful. You don't want to limit yourself, or you could give yourself the experience of being a less powerful God, right? You give yourself the experience of being at the will of other energies or entities that you create yourself. But that again, that's another thing. But yeah, everyone have the best day. God bless. Peace.